From the owner's box to the sidelines, white men occupy most senior positions in the National Football League. But Huyghue is one executive who's out to puncture pro football's glass ceiling. He served as a GM, held several key posts in the NFL Management Council, has been a high-powered player agent, and was commissioner of the United Football League. He is out with a new book, Behind the Line of Scrimmage Inside the Front Office of the NFL. In today's Business of Equality, Bloomberg's ongoing conversation about the bottom line impact of diversity, I sat down with Michael and talked about his career journey.
I didn't have mentors along the way, which most people do, and they sort of help shepherd your career. So I did it on my own. I just sort of looked for opportunity, and wherever I found it, I went through that window. And I didn't stop and reflect on what are the downsides, what if this doesn't work out, I'm in a good position now. I just kept moving, trying to find this goal of maybe one day being commissioner of the league. And that's what guided me in the process. It wasn't money. It wasn't any of those kinds of things.
So you took a lot of risks and you did a lot of things that maybe the conventional route would kind of frown upon. What I took away from your book is how insular and exclusive the NFL is. Beyond just the owners and the super talented players, senior executives, lawyers, the coaches, networking and familiarity trumps everything. And blacks and women are simply not part of that circle.
Yeah, it's true. And it's not only representative of the NFL, but it's corporate America in general. And I think that's why the story resonates with so many people. The obstacles we face, that labyrinth of all of those networking, old boy networks, really come to bear. And you have to really have a guiding principle and a moral compass for yourself, or it's easy to get washed up.
Okay, so you took on different senior leadership positions. You were in charge of football operations. You were with the Jacksonville Jaguars. When you found yourself in these senior positions, was it okay for you to have an agenda? Did you feel like it was okay for you to take advantage of your position of authority and actively reach out to black coaches, take a chance by hiring perhaps less experienced black coaches?
I think so. I mean, I think you have a responsibility when you're an African-American in a leadership position. I didn't get it right away in my career. Early on, I thought I had to build up my own stature and then bring along others. And I realized shortly thereafter that window of opportunity is very narrow. And when you get the opportunity, you have to exercise it. And people look to you to do that. That's why you're in the room. So I think you have to stay in your own skin and be comfortable in that position.
Was there any downside when you started doing that? Did you get any negative feedback?
Well, sometimes the decisions don't work out. And when that happens, people look at you. But, when you're guided by the right principles, you're going to have some wins, you're going to have some losses, and you have to learn that's part of business, too.
Now, in the end of your book, you explained why this NFL systematically excludes blacks from the coaching ranks. You talk about thinking positions versus skilled positions. Talk about how this has huge implications on the hiring of head coaches.
Well, we have silos everywhere. And in the NFL, what's happened is they have separated the players sort of in two positions, the skill position players, which are predominantly the African-American players, and the quote-unquote thinking positions, which have been white players predominantly. And so it's quarterbacks and offensive linemen and linebackers. And so what's unfortunate is that the ability to become a head coach usually happens from the thinking positions and not from the skill positions. And what's happened is black coaches coach all the skill positions. White coaches typically coach the thinking positions. So it's a backward system where there's no real active pool to allow a fair level playing field for blacks to escalate into head coaching positions.
But there were some rules that the NFL put in place to make sure that job interviews included reaching out to black coaches.
It did. And the Rooney Rule was a part of that, and it allowed blacks to get an interview and a foot in the door in the process. But again, because owners had been so conditioned to believing and seeing the matriculation of coaches from those thinking positions, it was just too daunting for them to make that kind of a reach.